Okay, so now we talk about the absolute mind, right? So we start from here. How therefore can worldly beings of the three realms of existence in the supramundane, Suragama and Paitrakya Buddha stay fathom the Tathagata supreme Buddhi and penetrate the Buddha wisdom with word and speech. For instance, through a lute can make a sweet melody. It is useless in the absence of skillful fingers. It is the same with you and all living beings. For on those the true mind of precious Buddhi is complete within every man. When I press my finger on it, the ocean symbol radiates. But as soon as your mind moves, all troubles arise. This is due to your remissness uh, in your search for supreme Buddhi, in your delight in him, Nayana, and your contentment with the little progress which you regard as complete. So now the Buddha reminds us that mm, even the mind of the arhat or the solitary Buddha could not understand the Buddha's supreme wisdom, right? The word and speech. So he used the analogy that when a skillful man uh, uh, use the lute, right? They would hear the sweet melodies, but for us, we could not uh, because we're not skillful. So when we uh, move our mind, or troubles arise. That's what in the Flower Dharma Sutra, the Buddha say that our mind is like the artist, it draw evidence. Uh, so that's why we make a little progress if we feel content and we just stay in the small vehicle. So I think we discussed before too, right? In the route editions focus on uh, the the non-self, right? So that we would not have any attachment, especially with the understanding of the five aggregates, right? You know the five aggregates, right? The form,
Yes.
feeling, the perception, the uh, form, feeling, thinking, form, feeling, perception, uh, the mental habitual pattern. And the last one is the consciousness. So in the traditions, there's no real self. We need to smash that type of attachment from those five aggregates. But in my high position, it talk about yes, we have the pure mind or the true self here. That we can recognize. Mm, yeah, that's why the Buddha say that we need to make progress, right? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Purna Maitrayaniputra said, "The Buddha and I possess the true, absolute, and clean minds of complete enlightenment, which are the same and wholly perfect. But why, after so many transmigrations, do my delusions from the time without beginning, and after my present attainment of the saintly vehicle, am I still unable to realize the ultimate, whereas the world-honored one has eliminated all falseness and has realized absolute permanence? I beg to ask the Tathagata what causes the delusion that screens living beings from their profound enlightenment and so subjects them to their present perdition?" The Buddha replied,
So, okay. You want to read? Yeah,
"Oh no, it's okay."
it's okay. Go ahead. Yeah, please.
The Buddha replied, "Although you have wiped out your troubles, klesa, traces of your defilement still remain. I will now put some worldly questions to you. Have you not heard of the madman Yajnadatta of Sarvasti, who would look into a mirror and delight in seeing his eyebrows and eyes? But when one morning he failed to see them in his own head, thought himself bedeviled? Do you think there was any valid reason for such madness?
You can stop there. Yeah.
So Purnamaitrayani Putra is asking for the reason that we do not live from an enlightened state. Like, what is the cause that makes obscures our original enlightened mind from us? And so the Buddha starts with this example of Yajnadatta, who liked looking at himself in the mirror and seeing his eyes and eyebrows, but then one morning he failed to see them in his own head, and he thought he was bedeviled. So this is kind of like when we hear of our original enlightenment and we go and we look for it and we can't find it. And that's how he's giving this analogy for it's the same, that's sort of the same way that Purnamaitrayani Putra, where this question comes from. So
yeah. Okay.
what I don't understand is the story, the Yajnadatta story. Why one morning didn't he see his own eyes and eyebrows in the mirror?
Okay. So, but when one morning he failed to see them in his own head, thought himself be devil. So when he looked at the mirror, he see his eyes and eyebrows, right? Without the mirror, he couldn't see them. So that's why he thought himself he was devil, right? And it's similar to the story that I don't know which part of that probably we have not read. So one man, he looked at the mirror one morning, but when he stepped out of the house, he couldn't see his head. So he carried his head. He hold his head and look for. Sorry, look for. Sorry, can you give me? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so you know that story?
Yes, they're holding his head and kind of going around. Yeah.
I lost my head. Yeah. That's why I put this way. The Buddha said that we have pure nature already, but if we have intention to look for that pure nature, then like we carry a head we hold the head and we don't allow to look for another head. So the pure nature come naturally. We just recognize is in the what do you call in the bare pure way. As well as we have the thought that we want to look for that pure mind, we get lost. I think it is a similar analogy. Is that right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Here, so you say, oh, in the mirror, yeah, they have the eyebrows and eyes, but next morning he doesn't see himself in the mirror, and he's thought that he's devil. A similar way. Okay, then let's move on then. Puna Maitreyan Puja replied, there was no valid reason. The Buddha said, the absolute Buddha is basically enlightened and absolute. When this screen and wrongly called fails, false. How can there be a real curse of delusion? But if there is a real reason, how can it be called false? All this arises from wrong thinking, which develops into the further wrong thinking. When one's focus is heaped on another's, in spite of teaching by the Buddhas in countless former aeons, you are still unable to avoid delusion. These causes are also under delusion. If you realize that it has none, wholeness will have no support and will vanish. Since delusion was never created, what is there to destroy the realized body? Oh, remember about the verses of Huinang Nang Supetra and Shan Chao. Remember that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he say that, well, our body, like the we call our mind is like the pure mirror, right? So we need to cleanse every day so that we can keep that mirror being clean, right? So the patient, he say, well, there's no bodies, no minds, no mirror. Um, uh, we always have that pure mind. There's no need to clean up the mirror because actually there's no mirror. And he said that actually if we distinguish between false and the real one, right? But there's no false, so delusion or the wisdom is still under the names, if we still fall into the duality. So we discussed before about the CBT and MBCT. You heard about that, right?
Yes.
It is for encouraging the patient to think in the positive way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the more we think about positive way, the more momentum we may think about the negative way. There are two poles always fighting each other. So if
Yeah.
we think about real or the false, they always fighting each other. So in the MBCT, it say that no, you don't need to fight. You don't need um, to trigger your positive mind. Just absorb and embrace whichever thing happening in your mind. That's more than enough. That's kind of awareness. And when we be aware of that, be aware of our own mind, eventually will be disappear. It's like if we realize that this has non-wholeness, we will have no support and we vanish by itself. So for the one that has depression, they have all kind of fear, they have all kind of negative thought. But if they recognize it's just a thought, eventually those thoughts will be vanished. It's similar way, right?
Yes. Yeah. One of the, I think, easiest ways to trip on trying to be positive is to start to judge oneself about not being positive enough.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so bad at being positive.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why. That's why we play around with the positive and negative. We play around with good and bad. That will get stuck there. That's why, especially in the West, right? They because of the illusion, right? They distinguish clearly good, bad, black, white, and so forth. That's why always a conflict there. There's no way for them to find the real peace. Is that right?
Yeah.
Whenever we define, oh, I'm good, you are bad. If you follow me, you're my friends. If you don't, You are my enemies. There's always a conflict there. But if we step above that, if we let go of those kind of thought, everything be more peaceful. Yeah. Okay, please.
This is like a man who, when awake, relates what he saw in a dream. He may be ingenious, but what can he get from it? Still less can he benefit from a state which does not derive from any cause and does not really exist, like Yajnadatta, who without reason took fright at not seeing his own head. If he suddenly ceased to be crazy, his head would not come from somewhere else, and even if he was still mad, it is not really lost. So the Buddha is looking to clarify why the question about the cause of delusion is itself, asking the question is showing the delusion being present, because there's like the the delusion itself, if it's not really, it's not real. Just like Yajnadatta is fearing his head's not there, is it's just a delusion. So what's the cause of delusion is like, well, it's wrong thinking. So in the previous paragraph, the Buddha is like talking about heaping wrong thinking upon wrong thinking. So then if we think about wrong thinking, we'll keep ourselves in that same duality. And so ultimately that pursuing that question won't lead us to see our enlightened state. But asking it can help. I think the explanation from the Buddha helps to kind of show the doorway to letting that wrong thinking subside.
Yeah. So that's why somehow in Zen traditions, or in high tradition too, in the seasons as the season in the dreams. But it's not easy. It's not easy to see things as a dreams in our daily lives, right? Most of the time we see things as real, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have conversation, that's real conversation. We eat, we're eating, we're driving, we're talking, and so forth. Everything is real for us. So, actually, this thought pop up in my mind yesterday. How could we realize life is as a dreams? So, my answer is that only when we are in the state of samadhi or concentration, we will see our thought pop up and go constantly, and there is unreal. That's why it's like in the dreams. When we wake up, everything's be gone. So without having any kind of concentration and any kind of samadhi, it's not easy for us to see everything as a dreams, because we have the tendency to attach to them. Anything that we say, anything that we have, anything that we deal with, anyone that work with us, and so forth. Until we have the kind of concentration, until they have a type of clarity in our mind to see the wave of our thought that pop up and go. It's like the wave of ocean. When we have the kind of stillness. That's why it requires a lot of practices, right? To realize that. Otherwise, it's not easy. Yeah. Okay. Move on. All right. Let's see here. Una Maitreya since this is the nature of holiness, where is its cause? If you will only cease to discriminate and to believe in the three illusions, that they are the universe, karmic retribution, and the realms of living beings, the three conditions derived from killing, stealing, and carnality will come to an end. Without these conditions, the three causes will not arise. As with the mad yanadatam, the mad nature of your own mind will come to an end. And when it does, there is enlightenment. Thus, your unassailed, pure, and enlightened mind, which essentially pervades the Dharma realm, does not come from outside. How can it be realized by toilsome and profound practice and by attunement? It is like a man with a Sintamani pearls seal in his coat, who forgets all about it, since he is really poor and wanders about begging for food. And though it is pure, his pearl has never been lost. If a wise man suddenly tell him that it is in his coat, all his wishes will be answered, and he will become very rich. He will thus realize that the wonderful germs does not come from outside. Yeah, so he say about the nature of the fullness doesn't come anywhere else. So if we stop to disseminate, we uh, believe in the delusion, commit retribution, precondition derived from our karma to come into. Otherwise, we'd be confused. Without this condition, we would not recognize, they would not come about. Yeah, we will recognize as our enlightened nature will appear naturally. It's like we have the pearls in our court. So anyway, I don't know whether I told you the story about the man when he read the Heart Sutra. He says, "Forms is emptiness, emptiness is form." You heard about that story I told you?
The ash.
Yes. It's similar, right? For the enlightened person, they recognize as form is emptiness, emptiness is form. But for us, there's no way. We still have all kind of attachment. That's why what we call um, the uh, the Zen, what do you call it? The speaking Zen, not the real Zen. You know, this means speaking Zen or wooden Zen, not the real Zen. If someone can imitate the Zen master, the patient say, okay, form is infinite, endless form, life is dream, and so forth. Until we recognize, we can understand. Otherwise, it's not easy. And this type of story reminds us that yes, we learn the teaching, but it takes time for us to realize them, right?
Yes, yeah. I'm struck by just the beauty of it. In the Lotus Sutra, talks a lot about expedient means
Mm-hmm.
and preaching in accordance with what is appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
So like the teachings, because the Buddha teaches about karmic retribution and living beings and these things, and how at a certain level they're appropriate, kind of like a child, a baby shouldn't be allowed to go on the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
A baby's going to fall down the stairs, and so needs certain guidelines to keep them safe. But then at a certain point, when we let go of the discriminating mind, and then there's no discrimination of self and other or good and bad, well, there's no longer any roots for desire, for greed, for anger. So then all of the different dharmas that arise to cancel out the like different defilements, well,
Mm.
now they all go quiet too. I mean, if the defilements go quiet, then there's no need for the dharmas to appear to arise to cancel them out, in a sense where it's just suchness. So it's like, it's just kind of beautiful how at whatever level we're at, there are these protections within the teachings.
Mm-hmm. You know, in the Zen tradition, this is a story about uh, a fox appear in the Dharma assembly. You heard about the story? And he
You've told me it once. I vaguely remember the fox part, but I couldn't tell you what the story was. But I'd love to hear it again.
so that fox appear as an old man. And so after the Zen master finished speaking or teaching, so he stood up and asked the master the question. So he said that, well, I was a fox back in the mountain, but 500 years or compass before, I was a monk here. And because I'm a leader of the communities, so someone asked me for the cultivators, will they still abide with the cause and effect or the law of karma? At that time, I say no, because of that answer. I fall into the realm of animals to become a fox for 500 years, 500 lifetimes. So please, the master, help me out so that I can get out of this kind of fox body. You heard about that story, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't remember all the details though.
So you remember how the Zen master replied?
No, I don't. No.
So the Zen master say, well, you need to recognize the law of karma. So Zen master would not reply yes or no answer, but he replied that you should recognize the law of karma. That's all. You see the difference, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Why? You know why the monk he was among the past, and because he replied to people that for the new cultivators, there's no law or cause in fact that may be applied to them. That's why he say no, and that because of that he paid for the karma to become a fox for 500 lifetimes. You can say that 500 lifetimes, 500 years. Yeah, you know why?
It's so one, if the consequence, there's that would be the cause for other consequences for those people. If they believed that there was no law of karma, that would be equally false. Like saying there is a law of karma, you could say that's false, but it's in accordance with the law. It's going to help people in that state. If you say there isn't, that's just as false, but now it's not in accordance with the law because it won't help them. Because then they'll think, oh, I can do whatever I want,
Yeah.
and there won't be a consequence.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the finger pointing at the moon thing again. It's like the law of karma is the finger pointing at the moon, like the actual law that's present there. But in a sense, this concept of karma that we have about it, like the concept of what it is, doesn't exist. And that's really what we relate to when we say the law of karma. So the but the concept's to protect us until we don't need protection anymore.
But the points I want to ask is that why? What did he fall down to the animal realms to become a fox then? Why is that? He just replies no, but that's why he paid that kind of consequence. But why? Why so severe?
Well, wouldn't it cause problems for those people to believe that there was no karma? So then they wouldn't be motivated to do good actions.
and they create bad karma, and he's the one that pay those kind of bad karma with them too, because he say so. He say there's no cause and effect. That's why people could do anything that they want to, kill, steal, and so forth. And because of his guidance, instruction, that's why people fall, and he have to bear the consequences too. That's why he fall out in the animal realms as the fox. It's
Yeah.
scary. It's scary.
I'm someone who was very close to me. I've heard them use emptiness to justify eating meat.
That's the point.
And so, yeah, emptiness can be used, the idea of it can be used to serve desire. And
Mm-hmm.
so your story about the ash is a really good example of the distinction between someone who's actually achieved emptiness, because if we're not receiving the consequence at the moment, we may think the action is empty, but when we receive the consequence, it's not going to feel empty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's why we need to recognize who we are. That's why we need to understand our state of mind. Yeah, yes, definitely we learn about this competition, but we need to know, okay, this is just the principle. It's just the ideal one, right? And for it's just the guideline for us to achieve to a pure mind, but we have not been up there yet. Yeah, that's why we still need to abide with the law of cause and effect in a way. Yeah. Anyway, oh, how about this story in the Lotus Sutra is have similar story, right?
Yes, yes, the son of the rich man.
Mm-hmm. How about the pearls or the germs inside the court? I think this is a similar parable too, right? Is that right?
It's been a while since I've gone into the deeper chapters because I've been reciting the initials to try to memorize it. So I I don't remember if that is in there. I definitely remember the son who leaves home and wanders, and then the father sees him. But I don't know if the pearl one is there.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
It is there.
yeah. I think so. Yeah, we can check it then. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, please.
Ananda then came forward, prostrated himself with his head at the feet of the Buddha, stood up and asked, "The world honored one now speaks of eliminating the three conditions of stealing, killing, and carnality to ensure that the three basic causes do not arise, and so to stop the upsurge of Yajnadatta's madness and realize Bodhi, which thus does not come from the outside. This, without a shadow of doubt, shows the causes and conditions. But why does the Tathagata throw them away completely? It is also due to causes and conditions that my mind has opened. World honored one, I am not the only Sravaka hearer who, though still needing study and learning, has so awakened. But others in this assembly, like Maha Madgalyayana, Sariputra, Saputi, etc., who followed the Brahmacharin, heard of the Buddha's teachings on causes and conditions, then awakened to the Dharma and achieved the state beyond transmigration. If you now say that Bodhi does not depend on causes and conditions, then the self-existent, as preached by the heretics and Rajagraha, such as Maskari Gosali Putra and others, would be nirvana. Will you be so compassionate enough to enlighten my delusion and perplexity?
Hmm.
So, the Buddha is saying that um, the the Buddha nature has never gone anywhere,
Hmm.
and it's not something that has to be attained in as much it's more that the wrong thinking needs to cease and it will be revealed, and that nature is not dependent upon causes and conditions. But Ananda is saying, well, if we hadn't experienced these causes and conditions, we would never have achieved the state that we have now achieved. So it seems to me that the realization of this is in fact dependent upon causes and conditions. If it's not, this is very similar to the self-existence preached by the heretics, and lists the names of them. And so he's asking, not from the state of your Buddha, you're wrong, but from there's something I don't understand. Can you please clarify it for me? Which I think is a really good thought. It makes me think of the line in the Lotus Sutra that says, the Buddhas understand that the seeds of Buddhahood sprout through causation. Um, that uh, the phenomena have no constantly fixed characteristics, but that the seeds of Buddhahood sprout through causation. For this reason, they preach the single vehicle. Um, so it is an interesting question that there's a sort of paradox, and of, okay, the nature is not dependent upon anything, but my realization is seems to be dependent upon something. And it seems to me that, again, this is from the deluded mind state of, it appears to be dependent upon causes and conditions, but in fact, those causes and conditions are nothing but the appearance of them is delusion. As causes and conditions, it's like um, Einstein actually had a pretty good saying that I think matches in this setting, where he said, we can't solve, I think it was Einstein, we can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it.
Mm.
In a sense, like you get what you understand. Yeah, I can see from nodding. So it's like trying to use the deluded thinking to understand the absolute.
Mm-hmm. And also one thing is, that Ananda he doubt about is that when the Shariputra first met, I think Ashenji, who was one of the first 5 monks that Buddha taught. So he saw Shenji and asked about teaching. And so the Shenji said, well, I'm not a teacher yet. My teacher taught me that everything's arise from conditions. Everything fall apart because condition too. You need to recognize that. And this the teaching of my master, this means the Buddha. And at that moment, Shariputra attained the first state of arhatship. So that's why and he mentioned about Shariputra here. His enlightenment. That Shariputra, Subhuti, Mahayana, they attain arhatship because of conditions. And now Ananda he doubt that when Buddha talk about the pure mind, the pure nature, it go beyond conditions, and he is confused. That's why then awake to the Dharma beyond the transmigration there. You heard about that verse, right? The verse that Ashenji talked to Shariputra when they first met.
I think you or Tikya Fab mentioned it before, because now that you say it, I wouldn't have been able to produce it myself, but as you say it, I remember hearing it before.
Okay. Yeah, so that's why he doubt about that. But again, in the absolute truth, there's Alma is there already. There's no need for it to be revealed, depend upon the condition. But in the mind of the arhat, because they need to do step by step to achieve to the meditative state of mind, so that they could attain the arhatship. That's why it's go beyond that kind of mind setting. The Buddha said, Ananda, in the case of Yajandata, if the so-called cause and condition of his madness has been wiped out, his own nature, which was not mad, will have revealed itself. And whatever you may rationalize about the cause, condition, and sensation does not go beyond this. Mm. Mm. So, the so-called cause and condition of the madness uh, have been wiped out, so he could recognize his own nature. And whichever, whichever Ananda say, right? You get stuck with core condition and self-system. Then basically, Buddha say, as no matter what, if you don't understand, you get stuck there, right? You don't understand. There's the pure mind, the pure nature doesn't need to have any cause and condition to review it. It's there already.
Yeah, that if the cause and conditions of delusion are wiped out, yeah, then that's the basic nature is enlightenment. So we don't have to, it's not that the causes and conditions are creating the enlightened state. It's that it's leading to the extinction of the delusion.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's yeah, please go ahead.
Ananda, if Yajnadata's head had basically been self-existent, it should always have been so and could not have been otherwise. What then were the cause and condition that resulted in his taking fright and going mad? If his self-existent head became mad owing to cause and conditions, why was it not lost? But when he took fright and went mad, why was it still there unchanged? Thus, how could cause and condition affect his head? If his madness was self-existent, it should always have been there. But before he became mad, where was it hidden? If his madness was not self-existent and there was nothing seriously wrong with his head, why did he go mad?
It's not, yeah. It's understandable. Or...
Yeah, basically furthering the analogy, the head being present is the original nature, and the becoming frightened and thinking it's gone is the delusion. So that he's the Buddha's line of questioning into, okay, so what were the cause and condition that resulted in the taking fright and going mad? And if he became mad because of causes conditions, why was his head not lost? Okay, but when he took fright, was mad, they're still unchanged. So basically, that him becoming frightened and thinking his head was gone didn't actually make his head gone. And before he became frightened, he knew his head was there and he was at peace in a certain extent. So the fright and the madness wasn't there before. So if it wasn't there, where was it hidden? Or where did that madness go? So the madness is not self-existent. Yeah, I'm curious to see how he explains the rest.
If the madness was not self-existent, there was nothing serious wrong with his head. Why did he go mad? What do you think about this sentence? Why? Why did he go mad then?
He wasn't seeing clearly. He had like wrong thinking.
That's the point. Yeah. So now, actually, in all problems we have all wrong thinking. That's why we have all kind of illusion, all kind of emotion fluctuation. That's why we have stress, anxiety, and so forth. Especially the mothers, because of love, they think more about the children when their children driving the car on the road on the freeway, right? They have all kind of mental manipulation or the fear about their children involved in car accident, right? But it's not happened yet. So, but somehow they project, oh, my child, he or she is still immature. They may crash other, or other may hit them. So that's just mental protection, not a real one. That's just the mind. And in our life, right? Most of the time, the problem comes from mental projection, right? Onto our others and so forth. Okay, this one here. If you realize that his fundamental head were intact, you will know that only his consciousness become mad, and will realize that to talk of the cause, condition, and self-existence is frivolous. Is that nonsense? Is that right?
Yeah.
This is why I say that if the three conditions of killing, stealing, and carnality are eliminated, this is Buddhi mind. But the idea that Buddhi mind is created after the samsaric mind has been annihilated pertain to samsara. Okay. So again, it's just because of the thinking, right? The consciousness that create that kind of madness. The fundamental head or the pure nature is still intact, right? And there's no way for it to depend upon the cause, condition, and cell existence. That's why whenever we let go of those kind of three conditions, our body mind will be revealed. And if we think that body mind is created by after samsaric mind has been annihilated pertain to samsara, it would not true, right? It because there.
Right.
Mm.
And it's funny because why did he go mad is basically the equivalent of the question Ananda asked in the beginning, what is the cause of delusion?
That's the
And
same.
it's like it's frivolous to talk about the causes and conditions of why he became mad because it's more madness kind of in a sense. Like to try to explain that, like what is the cause of delusion? It's like we can only use like we can just point, it seems the Buddha's like pointing out that that line of questioning, that line of thinking is evidence of the ongoing delusion itself.
Mm-hmm. You know the story about two men approached to a Zen master. One man asked the Zen master that uh, 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 does the dog has Buddha nature? You heard about that story?
Yes, yes.
And another man said,
That's where the mu koan comes from.
yeah. And the other man, actually, at that time, the master said yes. He replied yes. Yes, the dog has Buddha nature. So another man came up and asked the same question. And the master said no. The same question, but he said yes, and later on he said no. You heard about that, right? Why is that? At first he said yes, second he said no. You know why? Yeah, remember?
Well, as I understand it, he was giving the answer that would benefit each individual because in some sense they're both true, but it depends where's that person's mind, what is the answer going to do for them.
Mm-hmm. That's why the second man he surprised. He said, "Well, the first man asked you the same question as mine, but you say yes. Now I asked you, but you say no. What happening?" So the master said, "Well, yes, a dog has Buddha nature, but because of his karma. That's why he come down to be a dog. He have to pay for his karma there. Even the dog has Buddha nature, but because of his own karma, he need to pay for that. And that's why similar story like the fox story, right? He say no, and that's why many people did great bad karma. He also bear the consequences too. That's why he would become a fox for 500 bad times. So this is the idea. And again, but if we talk about the absolute truth, yes, our mind, our pure mind is there. But as long as we still live in the mundane life, we need to recognize the law of karmas, right? Yeah. Even after, or is this mine or you? Or you, right?
Yes, I think so. Yes. Even after the ideas of both creation and destruction had been abandoned, with no more thought of practice and realization, if the least belief in self-existence remains, this shows clearly that the death of the worldly has given birth to the self-existent mind, which also pertains to samsara, with its implied opposite, self-existence. This is like the mixture and fusion of various worldly materials into a compound, which implies its opposite, the uncompounded. But the absolute, which is neither original nor unoriginal, neither mixed and united, nor not mixed and united, and not united, and neither apart nor not apart from union and separation, is above and beyond all sophistry. So the Buddha is making clear the distinction between the Buddha Dharma and that of the heretics, which is that this idea of self-existence is in itself still marked by duality. So that sort of assertion of self-existence is distinct from the Buddha Dharma, where the Buddha nature really is beyond these discriminating terms. Any terms that are used for it, it's acknowledged that they're, like in these last few sentences, how it's neither original nor unoriginal, neither mixed nor united, nor not mixed and not united. It's really pointing out that you can't classify it. Again, like the finger at the moon, the words are attempting to point at this, which is beyond our ability to describe with language.
Yeah, at first I thought that this kind of non-dual principle is not easy to apply in our daily life, but somehow it's so wonderful that now they can apply in the modern age for the MBCT. I think we remember the story that when the sixth patriarch Huinang, he got the rope and the bow from the fifth patriarch, and left the temple. But somehow a group of monks chased after him. You remember that story, right? And
yes.
Caught him, but somehow he tried to take the rope and bow away, but he could not. So later on, he turned around and asked Sid Patriarch to give him a teaching. And so Sid Patriarch say, well, if you don't think about good or bad, where's your pure mind? Remember that, right? And this is, it's so applicable nowadays. And as much as we play around with duality, we get stuck there forever. We need to go beyond. We need to let go of good and bad in order to see a pure mind, in order to have the real peace.
Yeah, and in those circumstances in life where my knee-jerk reaction is to see it as something bad, something undesirable, when I have the mindfulness to like recall the teaching and to know that's not the thing to follow, then it's like deep tissue massage in a sense. The event that I automatically want to resist it becomes like that pressure to get me to try to let go of the idea of it being bad. Because if I don't let go, it's suffering. But if I can let go, then the thing can still be there, and it's without the resistance, there's not the pain. So it's a lot like if someone's pressing into a muscle. Once the muscle relaxes, it's no longer as tender.
Yeah. Oh, you know the parables. A monkey's get stuck in the monkey in coconut. Remember that story? Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard it different. Like it's present in different traditions too. I think the Jewish people have one as well.
How is that? What's it about?
There's a pickle jar in this one. It's like a demon with his hand stuck in a pickle jar, and
Okay.
that's how the demon gets caught.
Oh, okay.
Because he wouldn't let go of it. But I know monkeys will do that with I think with salt. In Africa, they'll do that with certain baboons if they're trying to find water. They
Mm-hmm.
can catch a monkey by putting a chunk of salt into a like a coconut or something like you're talking about. And then they keep the monkey for a while till it gets really thirsty, and they let it go and they follow it to water.
So the monkey stuck the hands into the coconut to get the salt, or what?
Yeah, I think so. It's been a while since I heard the story. And it when someone comes to like catch them, they won't let go of the salt. They'll stay there with their hand in the coconut. And so they can be caught.
Hmm. So how could you say that the monkey want to get the salt because there's no salt around?
Yes, yeah, it's really rare and they really like it.
Really?
Catching a monkey. I remember seeing this on a documentary with salt to find water. Baboons love salt and won't let it go.
Okay.
Yeah, the Bushmen in Africa would do this. I'll copy this link, uh,
Hmm.
copy link address, and I'll put it in the chat if you want to see the documentary on it. Oh, so it's a real thing. So,
Really?
what was the story you were going to tell?
Yeah. So what? So you say that the monkey stick into the coconut?
Yeah, I mean, the videos here if you want to check it out. As I recall, yeah, they tie the coconut somehow so the
Okay.
monkey can't run away with it.
Okay.
And so it has enough room to know it's salt, like it's licking the salt and it's trying to take it out, but it's a big chunk of salt, it's like a rock salt. And
Mm-hmm.
so then when the bushmen come, the monkey's like panicking, trying to pull away, but won't let go of the salt. And so then they can capture the monkey and they keep it for a while so it gets really thirsty. And then when they let it go, it's going to run straight to its water source, where usually it wouldn't want them to see where its water source was. But it'll so they can follow it, they can track it then and get water.
Really? Wow, that's
Yeah.
nice. Because they live in the desert, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Wow, that's nice. So so this is similar metaphor spread everywhere, huh? Hmm. Okay. All right. So time is up. Let's just stop here today.